The Honorable Tan Sri Muhyiddin Yassin, Chairman, National Recovery Council, our distinguished speakers, ladies and gentlemen. It's a great honor and pleasure for me to extend a very warm welcome to all of you to our annual Malaysian Economic and Strategic Outlook Forum. I would like to begin by thanking Tan Sri Muhyiddin Yassin, Chairman of the National Recovery Council, for providing the opening keynote address at today's forum. I wish to also thank the Honorable Minister for Domestic Trade and Consumer Affairs, Yang Berhormat Dato' Sri Alexander Nantalinggi, for giving us the special address to close this forum. To all our many speakers who are speaking on the three sessions, thank you and welcome to this forum. 2022 is the year of recovery and reset. Our economy is moving towards sustainable recovery, and business is gearing up for the Great Reset. There is a need to rethink, re-strategize, and refocus to survive, recover, and rebuild. Over the last 1.5 years, many SMEs have closed down. Thousands of jobs have been lost. Precious lives have also been lost. We need to therefore place utmost priority on national recovery. A whole of nation approach is so absolutely necessary. The global pandemic is moving to a new phase. No one can accurately predict when this nightmare will end, but we all have to work hard together to ensure survival and recovery, and in the process, to leave no one behind. MSEOF, as an annual forum, provides a timely update and analysis on the Malaysian economy, the political scene, as well as a regional outlook. Today, we learned of the new state election in Johor and how that will pan out and how it will impact on the incoming general election, perhaps can be a key focus for our political session later today. And I'm sure all our speakers will also be delighted to share with us your analysis and your thoughts on the Malaysian economy going forward, how it will impact on the building back process, and how new developments like the ratification of RCEP and the CPTPP will be able to help improve our national competitiveness. So I'm grateful to have all of you and all our participants joining us this morning. I wish you all a happy, successful, useful conference. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tan Sri Michael Yeo, for the welcome speech. Now, I have the great honor and pleasure of inviting Tan Sri Dato' Haji Muhyiddin bin Muhammad Yassin, Chairman of the National Recovery Council, to deliver the opening keynote address based on the theme of State of the Nation, Understanding Opportunities and Risks in 2022 to Build Back Better. Tan Sri Dato' Haji Muhyiddin, the screen is yours.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. And a very good morning. Yang berbahagia Tan Sri Michael Yeo, President KSI Strategic Institute of Asia Pacific, Excellencies, distinguished speakers, ladies and gentlemen. I would first like to thank Tan Sri Michael Yeo and his team at the KSI Strategic Institute for Asia Pacific for this invitation for me to share some thoughts in today's 2022 Malaysian Economic and Strategic Outlook Forum. I understand this event to be one that features forecasts or predictions by experts on Malaysia's and region's economic outlook for the unfolding year, as well as matters that relate to economic performance, making the findings of this event one of particular interest to us in the government, as we are keen to hear the opinions of independent experts on the progress of economic recovery and what more can be done to improve Malaysia's performance. Now, despite the difficulties faced last year, with the continued fallout from the COVID-19 pandemic, Malaysia has proven that it remains an attractive destination for investment. It has seen a total of 177.8 billion ringgit in manufacturing, services and primary sectors in the first 3 quarters of 2021. It is notable that this is an impressive 51.5% increase compared to the same period in 2020 and expected to generate 79,899 jobs. Now, the biggest progress was experienced by the manufacturing sector, which saw an increase of 58.4% or 103.9 billion ringgit from the previous year, followed by 32.5% or 57.8 billion ringgit in the service sector, and the primary sector with 9.1% or 16.1 billion ringgit. 60% of approved investments comprise of foreign direct investment, which are valued at 106.1 billion ringgit. Now, it is interesting to note that Singapore, China, Australia, Japan, and the Netherlands make up 85.3% of these total approved FDIs. While encouraging, this also means there is much room for improvement. More needs to be done to encourage foreign investment from other countries into Malaysia, and likewise Malaysia to other countries in pursuit of untapped wealth potential. 2021 also saw trade exceeding 2 trillion Malaysian ringgit for the first time in Malaysian history, which is an expansion of 24.6% year on year, reaching 2.01 trillion ringgit between January to November 2021. Now, while these are encouraging figures, there have been several challenges along the way. Malaysia's economy has weathered the storms of the pandemic the past year. We saw a contraction of 4.7% in August 2021 and 7.6% in July due to the implementation of the National Recovery Plan. This was necessary to soften the ill effects of various lockdowns that have hampered businesses and the risk of economic collapse. Now, despite this, there is much room for optimism, as signs of recovery are on the horizon. Several financial institutions have forecast the nation's growth at 4% for 2021, while Bank Negara projects economic growth at between 5.5 to 6.5% in 2022. Now, while the basis of these projections weighed heavily on the promises of investment, building upon past and present efforts of our numerous stimulus packages, as well as other ongoing national projects, all of us must continue to do our part to ensure high levels of productivity is realized and that there is no time to be complacent. Let us not forget that there have been unforeseen events that threaten the progress made thus far towards economic recovery. When the pandemic first began early last year, none of us expected that its effect will linger till this present day. completely transforming our lives. And to make matters worse, the recent floods that struck various states in Peninsular Malaysia have caused unprecedented levels of destruction on personal property and disrupted our means of livelihood. Businesses that have been affected by the floods, all of which have survived COVID, have been struck by yet another catastrophe. This double whammy of disasters cannot be ignored, as a large number of Malaysians have been rendered jobless. And while the National Recovery Council was established primarily to determine strategies to revitalize the economy that has been affected by COVID-19, we cannot ignore the fact that these other events have profound effects on national recovery. And as such, the government has announced an additional 1.4 billion ringgit to be disbursed to help bring those affected back on their feet. Not only will individuals and families receive financial assistance to help pick up the pieces, but a disaster relief facility has also been established by Bank Negara through the commercial banks to enable micro SMEs to obtain financing from between 75,000 ringgit to 500,000 ringgit for up to a 5-year period, including a moratorium of up to 6 months with financing rate of 3.5% per annum. The government has also announced assistance to be given to flood victims, repair their homes and personal vehicles. The recent flood catastrophe is evidence of the worsening effects of climate change. We must take actions immediately and adhere to the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, especially Goal 13, which is to take urgent action to combat climate change and its impacts. Evidently, there is a huge cost not only to individuals, but to the nation, affecting our economic progress and development. Relating to this, I would also like to implore delegates of this forum to implement ESG standards, environment, social and governance, as a regular part of your business operations and at every level of the organization. However, the adoption of these practices must be voluntary if one hopes to see genuine results. This way, alongside caring for the environment, best practice in governance, and at the same time caring for our fellow man, will serve as a more human factor as we go about our day-to-day routine, make it more purposeful. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, while appropriate action has been carried out to deal with the aforementioned crises, these have merely been reactions to the unforeseen. To move forward, the nation needs to quickly recompose itself and be in a firm position to continue its march towards development. We need to move from our reactionary stance to one that is proactive and progressively seeking ways to put ourselves at a more competitive footing. We have to double our efforts to ensure that Malaysians have the right skill sets and talent pool available, not only to serve the present-day needs, but also in anticipation of the needs of the business environment of the future. Much change has happened to the business environment in consumer patterns and supply chains, which has been intensified even quicker with the growing digitalization due to the pandemic and businesses attempting to find a competitive edge. While there will be advice from the government and private sector experts on solutions on how to weather the storm, true recovery comes from the human ability to innovate and to seek out solutions. Now, it is important not to ignore the rise of the digital economy. Transformation needs to take place now, if not risk being behind, especially by our colleagues in neighboring countries and beyond the region. The Malaysians must not be too comfortable and take things for granted. If we do not change, we risk investors seeking better opportunities elsewhere. Now, we must remember that the game hasn't changed. The business environment has always been dynamic and is never constant. As always, those who come on top are those who are able to see the bigger picture, are willing to adapt, find gaps in the market, and offer unique, improved propositions to consumers. Now, being up to date with the digital economy is merely a basic requirement that will allow businesses to compete on a level playing field, especially in an increasingly interconnected world. But knowing of change, being up to date, and being resilient on its own are insufficient, as the road to recovery lies within ourselves. Each of us must have the confidence to believe that we can do better to reach a higher goal. Now, while I have already spoken about the need for preparedness and adaptability, all will come short if we don't have the right mindsets and attitudes for the job. A look at the success stories of the pandemic, despite the obstacles thrown at them, aren't those who have waited for assistance, but are those who have been proactively looking for opportunities. They have been willing to adapt and make changes, not lingering in the things of the past, but have determined what must be done for success in the future. Another key matter relates to confidence. Confidence, or the lack of it, is what sparked the economic downturns of the past. If we look back in a recent financial crisis, such as in 2007, when there was a breakdown in confidence on financial institutions, or in 1997 currency's devaluation, consumers became less willing to spend and investors held back due to unknown risk. Now, these instances are followed by mass panic due to uncertainty of how markets will recover. Many individuals were so fearful they wanted to withdraw all the deposits from banks and held back on spending. And this lack of spending caused the normal flows of the business cycle to stall, which is ultimately what caused the downturns. Hence, although one can point a finger on the Lehman Brothers or devalued currencies, but what ultimately caused the economy to fail was us, due to the lack of confidence. Now, of course, the government will always do its part to build confidence, which has been evident through the various efforts undertaken in the past year. Confidence is built by having solid plans and a vision. And projects for development and infrastructure, creation of business centers where enterprises, big and small, cooperate in an environment conducive for shared prosperity. This is why it was timely the 12th Malaysia Plan was introduced, as it outlined the plans of the government for the next 5 years. From this master framework as a basis more plans will be undertaken, not only to move towards recovery, but also to push forward the country's development. The churning of better innovative ideas and the pursuit of business opportunities happens more fluidly when the level of confidence is high. It is my hope that forums such as the one today will help instill confidence by providing a thorough analysis of the country's economic development and advising steps that need to be undertaken to further enhance Malaysia's position. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, before I end my address, I would like to emphasize that analysis is insufficient without the correct strategy. Such strategies require good planning and leadership, which stems from competency. As leaders in our respective fields of business, ministries, agencies, academic institutions, and other forms of organizations, it is our responsibility to ensure the pursuit of development be mapped out with wisdom and foresight for the benefit of the people. We must not forget why we strive towards economic development in the first place, to foster a common prosperity that can be shared and enjoyed with each other. In this time of recovery and rebuilding, we must not be self-centered and be thinking of our own wealth, but also account how developments not cause others to be left behind. I look forward to findings from experts in today's forum, as it will allow the government to gauge the pulse of the Malaysian economy and, more importantly, allowing us to evaluate the effectiveness of the past and the present policies. Once again, I thank KSI for giving me this opportunity to address you today, and I look forward to suggestions and comments from speakers and delegates of today's forum. Have a fruitful and productive discussion. Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.